And it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we would take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. And we will rise. We will rise. We will rise. Oh, we'll rise. I'll rise up. Rise like the day. I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up. In spite of the ache, we'll rise up. And we'll do it 1,000 times again.
Hi. So let's have the panelists come on down. Deborah's going to join, and Reverend Wanda is here with us. Lo, I'm going to join the studio. Do we have enough chairs? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And Sarah. Sarah, Mom. Okay, great. Why don't you sit next to me? I'm just going to turn this way so I can face you all. Just feel like we need a deep breath for everybody. Okay, Deborah. Thank you. Thank you for the movie. Thank you all for being a part of this. Tell us why you wanted this to be your first feature.
Yes, sure. So as a journalist and a Black woman, I knew, what was going on. I saw a lot of stories in quick news sound bites. And I always wondered what happens with the families. There are so many challenges that they go through, and I feel like there hasn't been enough coverage about that. Years before I started this film, I had moved from Brazil to the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. That was in 2009. And the news about Oscar Grant's killing was all over the news. And that really impacted me as a journalist and as a Black woman. And so fast forward, when I was working at a newsroom in California, I wanted to do a film and interview Reverend Wanda Johnson and learn more about the work that she was doing with families in the healing, preventing police brutality, and also holding officers accountable. And that's how everything started. It started with a short film, but that story never left me. So I wanted to make it.
And how many years have you been in this story?
It's been 5 years total. So we were filming for 5 years. Yeah, and then we just launched the film last year.
Reverend Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your experience with all of us in this movie. And I just want to ask you, you have this kinship with women you probably never would have met aside from the circumstances you all have in common. And you and the other mothers, you use your loss and pain to make cultural change. sadly, you've been doing this for a while. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you've learned over time in your work and how that has changed over time with more awareness about these issues?
So thank you for having me here on today. Um, there's so many different things that I've learned on this journey since 2009. And one of the things that really uh, impacts me uh, dealing with other mothers is when you lose a child, often the media portrays a different role for that child. Often, if you're an African American young man, your child is demonized. And so, in that demonization, uh, for some mothers, it causes a unwill to fight for their child because of what has been said in the public regarding their child. And one of the things that I've learned and I've shared with mothers that God gave you that child, and no matter what anyone says concerning that child, it's our duty, it's our right to be the voice for that child. And if you're not the voice for that child, I always encourage them to become the voice for that child, because no one will know their child's story unless they share that story. And so for me, this journey has been a journey to encourage mothers to continue to fight for their child, no matter what society says. It's been a journey to share with mothers that all the hurt that you're going through, there is a purpose that we don't see, but it's a purpose that we must fight to ensure that our child name is never forgotten, that our society knows that our child mattered and that other children matter, and that we will fight for other children as long as we have breath to fight.
Yes. What can people who don't have the experience that you have do to help get more justice and to be a part of the change we all want to see?
So, to be a part of the change that we all want to see, don't wait till someone comes knocking on your door. While people have measures in place or trying to obtain justice for their loved one, trying to get street names, trying to get all kind of things changed for their loved one, don't just sit in your door with at home with your door closed. Get out and help. You know, I look at my brother Joshua, as I saw on Facebook. Even though I was in California, he was fighting to get, I believe, a street name changed. That you don't have to wait until someone knocks on your door. Get out there with Joshua while you're in this area to help that change occur, to make it happen. Because the only way our system is going to change is if we continue to stand up and stand together for what is right. And what is right is our children and our loved ones did not deserve to be killed at the hands of police. They deserve to be able to be in the court of law and allow the law or the judges and the jury to determine their fate. But because that did not happen, we will stand together in unity to fight to ensure that justice is served for all mankind. And each one of you in this room can stand with us when we're out in the streets, can stand with us when we're in the courthouses, can stand with us when we're at home, to ensure that justice occurs for all of us, that the liberty is balanced. And I encourage you, don't wait. You can support the Oscar Grant Foundation. You can support by sending donations in. You can support by coming to events, not just in California, but even as we support other families. Eric Gardner in New York, Ramali Graham in New York, Amadou Diallo in New York. And there's so many other names that I could sit here and name to you. But we can stand together and ensure that justice occurs for all.
Um, Lloyd, can you talk about your work on this film and how you worked with Deborah on it?
Absolutely, but I think before we start with that, as Reverend Wanda said, I just want to acknowledge also family survivors of victims of police brutality and violence here in New York.
Please.
They're here in the audience right now. If you don't mind standing up, being recognized, or raising your hand, really wanted to just uplift the voices of these families. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So yes, I think, I'm sorry about that. I've been with Deborah from, I guess, the beginning through the end of this, working with her from as simple as really coordinating all of our files, footage, and stuff. But towards the end was really the working with whatever Angela was also doing, which is to request these public records, the dashcam footage, the body cam footage in Alabama. And this is how I came to find out that it is difficult. We've tried all ways possible. I've requested it. Apparently, it's only for Alabama citizens. So we've had other Alabama citizens get it, and they were given other excuses not to get it. Ultimately, the Supreme Court of Alabama said that as long as a case is considered under investigation, they're not bound to release anything. And so, as long as Ulysses is in jail, there's not going to be an inch of progress into our request as well. And so we've worked with a lot of lawyers. As you've seen in our credits, we've worked with so many lawyers to try to figure out every way we can to get any information. And that's the work I've been doing with Deborah, and most recently been working with Reverend Wanda and bringing the film to film festivals around the country. I believe this is our 12th film festival for almost a year now. And so we've been just lucky and really, helping this film. And we hope that, we can get more people to see the film.
And so the film is over and finished, but the work continues.
Absolutely.
And Sarah, you edited this, and so what were the biggest challenge for you as the editor?
Yeah, thank you so much again for having us. Coming into the project, we had a very obviously linear story, which was Angela's story, which as we were, editing the film, it progressed in a very obvious way, and it was the only way to tell the film. But we really wanted to make sure that we did justice to telling Oscar's story, which had happened many years before. And we also wanted to make sure that the film wasn't just focused on the difficulties and the trauma that the families were facing, but we really wanted to focus on the humanity and the love. And so that was one thing that was very challenging for us was to figure out what was the best way to highlight this story, and then also to highlight the work that Wanda was doing, which was really bringing families together and showing that it's okay to take care of yourself. In fact, it's essential that you take care of yourself. It's important to care for one another, and we really wanted this framework of sort of the love to be with the resistance throughout the film. And so that was a delicate process of figuring out, well, we've got this one story that is kind of very focused on the investigation. How do we pull in these other elements that show the love, the humanity, the work that is being done, and the work that's being done to elevate and support these mothers and families as they're going through really difficult moments. And so that was one of the challenges. We also knew that we wanted this echo throughout time. And so it was important for us to bring in the archival, the historical aspect, because obviously we know that this isn't new. And we know that there's so many of these names. And so it was important for us to not just talk about some of the more recent stories, but also to hear this echo of that this has been happening for so long now. And we were able to find both aspects, the historical focus being on Alabama and California, but we also know that this is throughout the United States. So those were sort of some of the challenges that we wove in figuring out how to make it all make sense.
And Reverend Wanda, do you think that the perception in our culture has changed since George Floyd and the recent event? I'm completely brain dead because I'm doing this 4 days. What was that? With the release of things so quickly. Can you give us any of your thoughts on that?
Certainly. One of the things that we look at, and I shared in the film, the history of policing. The culture of policing has not changed. It doesn't matter if the police officer is African American or Caucasian. The culture
Mhm.
of policing is just what it is, meaning that for so many years in the 60s, again, when you look at the inception of policing, even in the 1800s, when it was slavery time, the very same things that was happening then, and the police and the culture of the KKK was able to get away with, is happening now. And it doesn't matter because it's a culture. And until we begin to work to change the way the system has been built, we will continue to see those who are hired, who we pay for through our tax dollars to protect and serve, will still have an opportunity to kill and say they were afraid, to kill and say they thought the person had a gun, to kill and say that person was resisting arrest, to kill and say that person tried to run from the crime, until we begin to change where they're not no longer able to use those things and work and talk about qualified immunity, then we will look and see systems changing. When we will be able to sue a police officer individually for their actions and hold them accountable, because oftentimes they're not held accountable. Oscar's case, first time in California history that an officer was charged with an on-duty shooting and convicted and served only 11 months, but convicted with only involuntary manslaughter. And if you look at the cases around this country, so many people have been killed at the hands of police, and so few officers have been convicted and charged. We have to change that stigma. It is an urgency. I mean, it should be a plight for each one of us in here to work together to change this stigma that we're facing. And I want to, say this is a passion for me. This is something that I truly will fight until I can't fight no more, to work to educate, to work to tell people that if we don't come together to change what is going on in our society, not only will we see Tyrese Nichols, but we will see so many others. Because when you look at other countries, they're not carrying guns like America is carrying guns. They don't have the gun usage and flow of guns that we have here in this country. And yet we say on our dollar bills, in God we trust. But the devil is a lie. We don't trust. We're trusting in the guns to protect. And until we begin to work to change that stigma, we will continue to have the Tyrese Nichols and so many other unnames that we don't even know about. And we have to make a conscious decision today to work to change the killings that's so prevalent in our country, to become a country where we say that we love each other, where a country where we say really in God we trust, where we really don't trust.
So, what are you going to do next with the movie, with outreach? How do you take this to the next place? Do you have like a campaign past film festivals that you're going to work on, Deborah?
Yeah, so we are still going through the festival circuit. We have a few more festivals to go. Our goal, we are talking with a distributor
Right.
right now. But our goal is also to do community screenings, right? As we go to film festivals around the country, there is a lot of people who want to bring their film. Sometimes it's like mothers, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like in every place we go, there are families impacted. And we want this film to be a tool for them to, maybe we have a screening. And just recently, we partnered with Reverend Wanda and the Oscar Grant Foundation. And then we brought the first FOIA workshop, which is like, we brought a lawyer to talk about like public records, how families can, they have the right and how they can get public records, right? As we saw in the film, there is a lot of cases where they suppress, key evidence like body camera footage and other documents. So we want that to be a part of our impact campaign as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess we could take a couple of questions from the audience. Yeah.
Oh, we got a mic right there.
Hi, my name's King Downing from a couple of organizations, one Justice for the Wrongfully Incarcerated and the other is the Human Rights Racial Justice Center. I don't have a comment. I want to introduce some of the other people
Please.
who are here. So if you each stand up. Joshua Lopez, who lost his uncle. Just tell us your uncle's name.
My uncle's name was John Collado. My uncle's name was John Collado. He got murdered on September of 2011 for attempting to break up a fight in his neighborhood between his neighbor and the other person. It was an undercover police officer who my uncle had no idea was the officer.
And then we have here Angelique Curse.
Hi, everybody. My name is Angelique Negroni-Kears. I am the wife of Andrew Kears, who was killed by Schenectady Police Department on May 11, 2017. My husband begged for his life over 70 times within 17 minutes and died in the back of a police car 1 minute before he got to the police station from cardiac arrest. I also got a law passed here in New York City. States that is called the Andrew Kears Act, and that states that if anybody needs any kind of medical distress, the officer or CO, because when you're locked up, they don't believe they believe you're lying as well, that they be held and get a civil charge. I also went for it nationally, and it got into the Senate floor in 2022. It got read twice, and it got reintroduced in 2021 as well. But every time we gotta keep pushing it in order for it to pass. But once it passes as a presidency, and it'll be criminal and civil. Also, I have the United Nations did a report on the most horrendous cases of African descent, and of 37 people of African descent from police brutality, and Andrew was on it as well. So I want everybody to understand that it's a lot of us, and we all need justice. We're all seeking justice. It's not about one case, it's about us all. And all of you should be with us, fighting justice, to reopen all our cases, to prosecute all the officers, and to get justice for each and every one of us, because all cases do matter and all lives do matter. Thank you.
And as you saw from the film, and there's a sister over here that I don't know who could probably introduce herself at some point, and then just, okay. And then I have one more families to, I didn't mean to.
Good afternoon. My name is Roxanne Johnson. My son's name is Jamal Bird. He was killed by DC Metropolitan Police October 1st, 2019. I was actually invited by Deborah, and I am happy to be here. This is a terrible sorority fraternity to be a part of. It's terrible. It never goes away. It's the only son I had, and his life was stolen from me and my family. He has a daughter who won't walk down the aisle when she gets married. And until this country faces the biases, this country was built on violence and it's maintained by violence. And until it faces that, we're all in trouble. Today is my son and your son, Wanda, but tomorrow it could be your son and your daughter.
Thank you.
The last folks I want to introduce, one of the reasons why I like the theme of the film is not everybody gets killed. Those stories need to be told too. And we have other ways that the system has abused families. And so I would like to introduce Sharon Salam, Aisha Malone, and Jada. These are 3 generations of the families who are part of what is known as the Central Park Five, now known as the Exonerated Five. So please also respect them, and maybe.
Thank you for being here.
Well, I'm always pleased to be in the surroundings of people like yourselves and others. And it's heartbreaking to be in a situation where you're surrounded by a number of people who have lost their children. Because my son, Yusuf Salam, is still alive, thank God. Even though he spent 7 years in prison for a crime he didn't do, 3 years on parole for a crime he didn't do, and 3 years on Megan's list as a sexual predator for a crime he didn't do. So that's 13 years that was impacted by his life. And I was really impressed by the speeches of all of you, really, and how you held yourselves together, especially you, Dr. Johnson, or Reverend Johnson, is it? And where you talked about how you have cerebral palsy, and it was bringing back so many memories. I don't have cerebral palsy, but it did remind me of that time I was leaving the courthouse and I was walking. I had to walk 1 block to get over to Broadway. For New Yorkers, you know what that is. So I'm walking up that 1 block and I started wheezing. I couldn't breathe and I'm all buckled over and I'm wondering if I'm going to make it to the corner. That's the amount of pressure and stress you're on. And from that time on, I had asthma, you know, but all because of the stress that these types of things put on you. You never really know how the impact affects you. It affects your children, because that's my child over there too. And that's my granddaughter. But you never know. But there is an impact on all of us. We're all affected. Because the first thing you said when he came after the people, the police beat him up. And I said, oh, I hope she shipped him out of the state. You know, because I had a feeling something bad was getting ready to come. You know, it's unfortunate that these things happen to us. And it's unfortunate that so many times that we have been trained to really hate ourselves enough to believe that we can do some of these awful things and deserve to be punished for whatever is said and whatever is done. We're guilty before we start. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say my family did start Justice for the Wrongfully Incarcerated. My mother didn't mention that. She's basically been working ever since in these types of issues since this happened to my brother. But that's another way to get involved. Justice for the Wrongfully Incarcerated.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I wish we could go on and on, but we don't have that much time left. Is there anyone who feels that they need to share something? Okay. Did any of you feel want to close?
I just want to say a few words in closing this. Thank you so much for all the families impacted, families impacted by police brutality, gun violence, oppression, any type of oppression, for coming here today. This film is dedicated to you as well. So thank you so much. When I wanted to do this film, it was not only to expose the challenge that families go through, but also show their hard work, right? Because it's their hard work that is helping us to get justice and to be, we are not at the place where we should be at, right? We all, like justice would be having all of these children here. But your work is helping change like legislation and helping us to get to the right place, and I hope it's going to happen, so thank you so much. And lastly, there are 2 more team members, 2 more collaborators who are here. Laverne, Laverne Berry, our attorney, and Celine Almiron, who was our production assistant. She's here, sure.
The whole family's here. I want to just thank you all so much for being part of our community, being in community with all of us. It means a lot. Thank you.
should be on, or no? Mike?
And if you wanted more information regarding the Oscar Grant Foundation, I have cards for you. And we would love for you to look us up online and to help us get involved to make sure that this is not just known amongst us, but throughout the country in legislative, in DC. Thank you.